Welcome to my channel. I'm Kari Gregor.
So, how are you doing?
I'm glad you're here. Today, I'm canning plant-based cream cheese. Let's get into it. This is my canner. It's very average that you could pick it up pretty much anywhere. It has this lovely rack that you can lift up to take the things out of the water and then fill it with the jars and then put it down into the water. First thing you need to do is to examine your jars. Run your finger around the edge and visually inspect them to see if there's any chips or cracks or bumps or things that will interfere with the canning process. So I check all the jars, and then I let the rack down and cover them with water. You want it to be covered about an inch. Looks like I've got a good inch there. And then boil it. I'm going to take it to the stove, put it on the heat, and boil it for 10 minutes. The lids do not have to be disinfected other than maybe wiping them with a little bit of vinegar. Wash them and the rings in hot water and soap.
Phoebe, is this the recipe? Yes!
I'm making the larger recipe because I'm going to be canning several jars. So I put 1 cup of raw cashews, cover it with water, boil them for 10 minutes, and drain and rinse them. So the amounts that I'm going to be listing are the larger amounts of the recipe. There's 2 amounts given, 1 in brackets, and that's for the canning. So I need 4.5 cups of yogurt. We'll put the half cup in first, and then we have the 4 cups of yogurt. This yogurt is the recipe that I made recently. The link for the video will be in the information bar above and in the description below. This is wonderful homemade almond yogurt. Add in 1/3 of a teaspoon of salt. Doesn't need very much salt. We want a little bit to prevent bad cultures from growing, especially if we are going to culture this after we've blended it. When you make it yourself, you have total control over the fat, salt, and sugar. However, if you want to jar preserve this cream cheese for your pantry, you must stick to the levels of salt and vinegar, acidic juice, any sugar that's in there. You can even increase those. They are all natural preservatives, and they contribute to the pH level of the cream cheese. They make it low enough so I believe we can preserve it in jars.
Always do something unexpected.
No, follow the recipe.
But you just said
No.
Is that good information? Give me a thumbs up below, subscribe, and hit the bell so you know when another recipe is posted. Run your blender for about 6 minutes total on high speed so that the cashews are completely smooth. At this point, I'm going to do a taste test. The yogurt that I had was pretty sharp, so I doubt if I have to culture this. If your yogurt is live, has live cultures in it, and it still isn't as nice and sharp as you want your cream cheese to taste, put it into a glass jar like this. Put a cheesecloth and a rubber band over the top so that it can breathe. Set it out at room temperature and let it sit for 24 hours.
And I have no culture of my own.
Yes, you do. You're a culture of 1, which is no less valid than a culture of 1 billion.
Mine tastes plenty tart, so I am not going to culture it. I'm going to add in the extra 1.5 cups of water, 3 tablespoons of lemon juice, 1 tablespoon of apple cider vinegar, and the thickeners. We have 1 tablespoon of agar powder and 6 tablespoons of tapioca flour. You could use cornstarch, but I like tapioca flour. Take this to the blender and let it go just for a minute or so. We almost pulse it just to make sure that everything is combined equally. I'm going to pour this into a saucepan and take it to the stove to cook. Boiling this mixture will kill the bacteria, so the yogurt will not be active bacteria anymore. Cook it over medium-high heat on the stove, stirring constantly. It starts to thicken fairly soon. It'll lump up. It's rather like a pudding.
Double, double, toil and trouble, fire burn and cauldron bubble.
And then it gets really thick. You can see this is quite nicely thick. And it has kind of a glossiness to it. You're going to be looking for that. And it boiling, so you can see it bubbling. It looks glossy. This batch is done. We are going to start filling our jars. The jars have boiled for 10 minutes and they're sitting on a clean towel, drained and dry. Now I'm going to use my scale. I put one jar in the scale and then the funnel for the mixture to go through. The scale has been zeroed so that I know exactly how much weight I'm going to be putting in. I'm planning to fill these about 7 to 7.5 ounces each. They are the small half-pint jars, which is perfect for just having something in the fridge to spread on toast. You know, you don't want to have a big jar. Scoop the mixture into the jar. Once I've hit the correct weight, we'll take the funnel off of here, take it off of the scale, let it smooth out a little bit. Use a plastic knife to dislodge any bubbles that you see around the side, which might interfere with the canning process. Dip a piece of paper towel in vinegar and wipe the edge of the jar. I just have a little vinegar in a bowl. So wipe the jar rim, and that gives it a little extra sterilization. Handle the lid on the outsides. Don't touch the surface of the lid. We are trying to prevent any bacteria from being introduced into the inside of the jar. Secure it with the ring just to finger tight, and then I've put that off to the side and I'm off to the next jar. So continue to fill the jars this way. I'm putting about 7.5 ounces per jar. The water is still warm from sterilizing the jars. And the mixture inside the jars is also hot because I put it in there as hot as possible. So this is not going to be a shock for these to be placed into this water. I want to get them all placed in. We want to make sure that they are spaced so that they're not going to be bumping into each other as they boil. Lower the rack and make sure they didn't shift around there. We want to make sure that they are evenly spaced because when this gets bubbling, we don't want the glass banging against each other. Although the lids keep it away. We have about 1 inch of water over top of the lids of the jar, which is what you're looking for. We're going to bring this back to a boil. Once we have a nice rolling boil, it's time to start the timer. We want to keep that rolling boil going for 20 minutes. So set your timer for 20 minutes.
We've run them through the most extensive testing to ensure maximum quality and durability.
While that's boiling, let's take a look at what our pH is for this batch of plant-based cream cheese. This is my pH meter testing wand. I've taken some of the cream cheese and put it in this little measuring glass. I turn the testing wand on and make sure that the probe is submerged. Then you can start seeing the numbers are going at the top. We have 4.14. Yeah, 4.14. And I have the indicator underneath the first 4 is a little happy face. It tells me that that is the correct pH for this batch, which is an excellent pH for a batch of canning. Anything below 4.6. I shut the stove off after it has the 20-minute timer is gone, and let the jars sit and rest for 10 minutes because they have been boiling pretty actively. After 10 minutes, we raise the rack and take these jars out. They are looking pretty good. I don't know if some of them have sealed already, but we should be hearing the pings of the lids depressing with the sealing fairly soon.
Well, let's seal it with a kiss, and I'll get back to work.
After I've got them all out, I'm going to add some more boiling water to the pot because so much of it boiled off. We want to maintain that 1-inch headspace or 1-inch water level above the jars while they're canning. Next batch goes in and the rack goes down and we start our timer again. Then take them out of the canner and wait for those pops, those pings of the lid's sealing. Doesn't that look beautiful? Nice, beautiful, plant-based cream cheese. On the shelf, in my pantry. Makes me so happy. These all sealed. You can see the lids are depressed. Wonderful.
When I fail to open this jar and you succeed, it will establish you as the alpha male.
Would it work if I just punched you in the face?
Yes, actually it would, but let's see how the lid goes.
There we have it, cream cheese. I've spread some on my toast. I'm going to put a little bit more on because this is so yummy on this whole wheat toast. It takes a few minutes for that tart, cheesy flavor to hit. This is so good. And it has so much less fat than regular cream cheese. You don't have to jar preserve it. You can freeze it if you want to. It will separate a little bit when you defrost it though. You can just whip that up together and it should smooth out. Or heat it and stir it up and it should smooth out. But jar preserving it for me is so much easier to have it in the pantry and everything. And because the pH is at the point where it is, it does preserve very nicely. It's also important to note that this cream cheese will not be a direct substitute for regular cream cheese because the fat content is so low. You can't bake it in a cheesecake because it just will not react the same way in the oven. We've made up for the fat, we've made that up by putting in tapioca or cornstarch and water. So that doesn't react the same way as fat cream cheese in the oven. But that being said, this is wonderful. Have it on a bagel, have it with a little bit of jam or some fresh fruit, and you have cream cheese. And it's just as easy as going to your pantry and opening up a jar. It's wonderful.
We call the person who does this job Little Susie Cream Cheese. You need to be social and bubbly and smiling all the time.
Madam, I'm your girl.
If you have gotten some good information from this video, give me a thumbs up below, subscribe, and hit the bell so you will know when the next video is posted, and that's going to be yummy sweet desserts or snacks. So, hit the bell so you know when that recipe is going to be posted. Leave me a comment. Let me know what you think of this cream cheese. Let me know what you think, how it tastes. Thank you for watching.